There are many different perspectives on the purpose and importance of having children. Personally, I feel conflicted by the idea of raising a family. Even though I've wanted to raise my own family for as long as I can remember, I can also say that my opinion on whether or not I should has changed over the years. As I get older, it becomes increasingly clear that having kids is a lot more than just changing diapers and going to every soccer match or ballet recital. As a mother or a father, you'll be directly involved in and largely responsible for the development of another human being's mental health, personality, morals, values, character, emotional stability, and preparedness for life's inherent struggles. And yet somehow, it's one of the things that are least discussed in Western society. There are people who go 30 years without ever once considering what it means to raise children and how their lives might change after having them. They only consider it once the children are actually here. You could go an entire lifetime doing all kinds of stupid shit that harms your child without anyone ever questioning your actions, thus leading you to believe that you must be a decent parent. In the West, we have this notion that we're born with a God-given right to freedom. And for that reason, everyone should be able to have as many kids as they want, and they should be able to do whatever they want with those kids outside of abusing them physically. No one likes to be told how they should raise their kids. And at the same time, most people admit to not knowing how the hell one raises kids properly. Most people just do exactly what their parents did, because that's all they know. Or the exact opposite of what their parents did out of spite for the way that they were raised. Now, of course, I'm generalizing, and I'm not speaking as if I have all the answers here. I mean, I don't even have kids. My point is that raising children seems to be something that we tend not to take very seriously. And for that reason, many of us do it without really thinking about the consequences of our actions or the responsibilities that come with them. So in this episode, you're going to listen to two different points of view on the idea of having children, and then you'll be able to decide where you stand on the matter. So first, we're going to listen to the Canadian actor Seth Rogen speak about his choice not to have children and how it's benefited his marriage, his career, and overall happiness. Let's check it out.
You referenced earlier you don't have any kids.
I do not. That has helped me succeed as well. Definitely.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There's a whole huge thing I'm not doing, which is raising children.
People, obviously, someone will be listening, but it would make you happier. You know, someone might say that. I'm trying to rebuttal.
I don't think it would. I've been around, obviously, a lot of children. I'm not ignorant to what it's like to. I've seen everyone I know has kids. I see. I'm 40 again. You know, like it's not. I know. You know, I've some of my friends have had kids for decades. You know, some people want kids. Some people don't want kids. I think a lot of people have kids before they even think about it. From what I've seen, honestly, you just are told. You go through life. You get married. You have kids. It's what happens. And me and my wife were just, neither of us were like that, you know? And honestly, the older we get, the more happy and reaffirmed we are with our choice to not have kids. Like, it was something we kind of talked about more, and we were like, are we made the right choice? Are we sure? Now, if more than anything, the conversation is like, honestly, thank God we don't have children. We get to do whatever we want. We are in the prime of our lives. We are smarter than we've ever been. We understand ourselves more than we ever have. We have the capacity to achieve a level of work and a level of communication and care for one another and a lifestyle we can live with one another that we've never been able to live before. And we can just do that. And we don't have to raise a child, which the world does not need right now. It's we're very happy with our choice to not have kids. And I work with a lot of people with kids, and I see definitively that I have more time to both do the things I need to do and the things I enjoy doing than they do. And not to say their kids don't bring them joy, but I say this truthfully. I me and my wife seem to get a lot more active enjoyment out of not having kids than anyone I know seems to get out of having kids.
All right, so Seth Rogen explained his decision not to have children and how he and his wife are happy with that choice. He firmly believes that people often have children without really thinking about it. And in his experience, being childless or not having children has given him more time to pursue his interests and his career without any major distractions. However, he was also quick to acknowledge the fact that this is a personal decision and it's not for everyone. Ultimately, he and his wife are happy with their choice and feel fulfilled in their lives, even without children. Now, at this point, I want to let you know that if you'd like to support this podcast and make sure that I can keep bringing you these episodes every week, then consider subscribing on Patreon. Patreon is a platform where creators can receive financial support from their supporters. Financial support from their supporters? By subscribing to a creator's Patreon page, you can get access to exclusive content, early access to new content, and other rewards and perks. It's a way for creators to monetize their work and for supporters to show their appreciation and help sustain the creator's content creation. So when you subscribe to my Patreon page, you'll get early access to all new episodes, bonus episodes of the podcast, and you'll be compensating me for the time and hard work I put into this show. So if that's something you want to do, simply click the link in the description of this episode and subscribe. So now that you've heard Seth Rogen's argument for not starting a family, let's hear Dr. Jordan B. Peterson speak about the reason that all adults should do it. And ironically, it follows the clip of Seth Rogen almost perfectly because Seth is saying that he's generally happier and he has much fewer worries and problems to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And this clip of Jordan Peterson starts with him asking, how much trouble would you want there not to be? And what I believe he's saying is, sure, life without kids could mean less trouble, but is a life without constant struggle really a good thing? So let's check it out.
How much trouble would you want there not to be? It's a weird question, right? Because you want to have something to contend with. You want to have something that forces from you the best that you have. And so you have to have real problems. It's something like that. Would you dispense with all your real... You could just lay down on a bed and have pablum infused into your mouth, if all your problems were solved. And so maybe you want difficult problems that you can solve, something like that, because there's some, I don't know what it is about it. There's the overcoming and the growth that comes along with that. There's something about the nobility of the enterprise. You certainly see that when you go about having children, for example, which is, the psychological literature is quite clear. If you do moment-to-moment comparisons of people who have kids and people who don't have kids, the people who don't have kids are happier. And so psychologists who tend to get things wrong even when they make intelligent discoveries like that one, immediately, some of them, jump to the conclusion that because happiness is the goal, that, well, there's something about children that, make you unhappy, and that's not good. It's like, well, wait a second. Maybe that's the wrong metric. It's like, of course you're less happy once you have children because you have to worry about them. My neighbor down the street, who's a very smart woman, said to me once, you can only be as happy as your unhappiest child. And which I thought was really good, that's really smart. But then it isn't, well, if having children doesn't make you happy, the answer isn't don't have children. It's like, don't be so stupid about being happy. That's the answer. It's because there's a nobility in the pursuit, right? And of course, now you're responsible. You have a new baby, you think, especially if you're a new parent, you think, what the hell is this? And what am I going to do with it? It's like, and then you're done for the rest of your life. You never sleep properly again because you're going to be worried about this creature that you have to take care of. But like, what the hell good are you if you're not doing that, or something else equally difficult? Because you just haven't been called out yet, unless you take on a responsibility like that. The idea that life is, that happiness is the purpose of life. It's like, great for happiness, man. If it comes along, you should be thrilled that it's visiting you. But the notion that that's what you should pursue, that's the weakest possible notion. First of all, as soon as something terrible happens to you, you're done. It's like, life is to be happy. It's like, well, now you have cancer. So how's that? How's the happiness thing working out for you now? Or maybe it's not you, maybe it's your father that has Alzheimer's disease or some damn thing. And, it's like it's a rare person that doesn't have some catastrophe, one one person away from them. It's like life is to be happy. That's not right. And we can at least derive that from these stories. That isn't what they say at all. God's perfectly happy in the stories to grant the people with whom he forms a covenant happiness and prosperity, but there's never a word that that's the purpose. The rule is aim high and get your bloody act together. That's the rule, and establish this contractual covenant with the ultimate ideal, and that will see you through the catastrophes. And that's a much more mature way of looking at life as far as I'm concerned, because all you have to do is have your eyes half open and you see that the fundamental reality of life is tragedy and suffering. That's inescapable. The question, that doesn't mean that it makes life unbearable or that it makes being something that shouldn't have existed. Right? That isn't what it means. But it means that you have to contend with it and you have to get ready. And the willingness to adopt responsibility for yourself and for others is the precondition for that. And then maybe if you do that properly, then now and then you get some happiness. You know, you can sit at the end of a day and you have half an hour where your conscience is clear and there's nothing that you need to be doing, and you can relax and think, you know, that's all right. Things are okay, and thank God for that. And that's maybe where you get your happiness. So yeah, that's something. That's growing up, man, obviously. And to not know that, and to not be taught that. Like, everyone should be taught that. It's so obvious.
Not obvious to me, Jordan. I'll say that much. But all right, my friend, according to Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, there's a nobility in having children because it involves taking on a big responsibility and overcoming challenges. Now, although people without children are generally happier from moment to moment, it's not because children make people unhappy, but because they don't have to worry about those children. Dr. Peterson challenges the idea that happiness is the purpose of life, and he argues that one should aim high, which basically means try to achieve difficult, meaningful things. Don't go for what's easiest. Don't go for, what you think will require the least amount of effort and time and energy, but aim high, like have high aspirations, try to achieve great things in life and adopt responsibility for yourself and for others. He says this is what we should do. This is what it means to live a purposeful, meaningful life. And the fundamental reality of life is tragedy and suffering. And Dr. Peterson says we should be ready and willing to contend with this tragedy and suffering. And by doing that properly, we can have those moments of happiness and fulfillment even when the inevitable tragedies of life strike. So, what I really get from his words is, like you have kids, you have more responsibilities, it's difficult, it's unpredictable, constant challenges and setbacks and ups and downs, and you're responsible for this fucking human being and their personality and everything you do affects them. And what are they going to be? How am I going to keep them safe and fed? And what happens when they leave the house? And, what about my time? What about my marriage and my friends and my hobbies and my dreams and all these things, right? And then one of your kids gets cancer, or your wife dies, or your husband loses his job. There's just all these tragic things that introduce insane amounts of chaos into our lives. And when you factor in just trying to raise a kid, even in the best of circumstances, it brings on a lot of responsibility and thus challenges for us, right? But Dr. Peterson says, he talks about this a lot in many of his videos. You can opt out of having kids. You can just decide, I'm not going to do it. But what are you going to do past age 50, age 60, when you don't have any kids to raise, or your kids aren't having any grandkids, you have no family, it's just you and your partner? What are you going to do? And I can understand that perspective. But I still personally just think, having children is not for everyone, man. It's not that simple. It's just, in life, you should take on responsibility, therefore you should have children. I don't agree. I don't think it's that simple. Because there are many people who should not have children, right? Many people who are not mentally stable enough, mentally healthy enough, or don't have the financial resources. So to say you should have children because that's the meaning of life, to reproduce and take on the burden of raising the next generation, I don't know if that's the case for everyone, I'm still not decided. I'm kind of on the fence when it comes to having children, at least personally. Obviously, what other people should do is none of my business, but when I put myself in that situation of thinking with my wife, should we have children? Should we not? I don't know, bro. I don't know yet. But what do you think? Do you believe that having children is necessary for a fulfilling life, or do you believe that it's a personal choice that doesn't necessarily guarantee happiness? Both Seth Rogen and Dr. Peterson have different perspectives on the matter, and both have provided us with compelling arguments. Now, ultimately, the decision to have children is both a personal and societal one, and each of us has to decide for ourselves whether or not it makes sense in the grand scheme of things. So I hope this episode has given you something interesting to think about as you progress down the path to proficiency in this confusing yet fascinating language we call English. I'm your host, Tony Kaizen, and I will talk to you soon. Peace.